Well, hello, welcome back to the channel of Motorbike Nonsense. Sorry it's been a bit quiet, I've been on holiday and doing other stuff, but I just want to do a quick video about Ducati or Ducati, however you want to say it, and tell me that I'm saying it wrong, because they've just done something very unusual. They've just unveiled, as you've probably seen, the new Streetfighter V2 and Panigale V2, and they haven't done the usual thing. They haven't done the usual thing of making it more powerful, more exotic. They've just completely changed what the Panigale V2 stands for and what it means. And they've made it 35 horsepower less powerful. That's not progress for most people, I imagine. They've made it more comfortable, they've made it less hardcore, and they've actually have changed the price. So I just want to quickly talk about it because I love the Panigale V2. It's always been a really good sports bike for the road, and the last one I rode in 2021 had 155 horsepower, that very over square, very revvy Super Quattro engine, and it was still very racy. It wasn't as much a sports bike for the road as a sports bike for the sports track. The Super Sport 950S was, in my opinion, the better road bike, and I've done a video comparing the Panigale V2 and the Super Sport somewhere on this channel. So it's interesting to see that when this new Panigale V2 was announced last night, that they've put this all new engine in it. I can't remember what it's called, shoot me, but they've really focused on making it a very light engine. It's something like 6 kilos lighter than the Super Quattro engine. The entire new Panigale V2 is something like 17 kilos lighter than before. So Ducati's kind of, it feels like they've stopped this power race that everyone's been in for years, and they've kind of started focusing on a power to weight race. It weighs 176 kilos, ready to go minus fuel, this new one, which is way lighter than the old Panigale V2. But obviously, yes, it is down 35 horsepower. So I thought this was a very interesting thing. Ducati is just, essentially what I think they've done is they're going to kill off the Super Sport, and this is going to replace it, and it's just going to get the Panigale name, which I think will get some people a bit hot under the collar, because the Panigale has always been the name reserved for its superbike and junior superbike, as in it's like it's 899 to it's 1299 or whatever. So yeah, it's interesting they've done this. It is interesting they've done this, and it's, I think, indicative of a video I did a couple of weeks ago, which over 110,000 if you've watched, about the state of motorcycling in general, with dealerships closing and all that kind of stuff. And I will do a proper follow-up on that, because more than 1,200 of you commented on that video saying what you think's wrong with motorbiking, and I'm going to crunch the numbers and come back to you on that. But this new Panigale, it does feel like they're making a bike for real world use, like the Super Sport was. But I kind of feel like perhaps the Panigale V2 and Super Sport never sold in massive numbers, so why carry on investing and making that Super Quattro engine Euro 5 Plus compliant? And it was a V-twin, it was super revvy, quite over square, and I don't know, I'm not a scientist, I think that's quite hard to get through modern emissions. Maybe they could have given it some more revs and a big capacity or something. But they've just designed an all-new engine, ground up, to get through Euro 5 Plus, and it does mean that even though this new Panigale V2 is only 120 horsepower, there's going to be an A2 compliant version of it for people who are learning. So it's I don't know, it's interesting just to see Ducati giving this top flight name, the Panigale, to a bike that is going to be lumped in the same sort of chat as like the Yamaha R9, not quite the Daytona 660, that's quite a bit less powerful. But it's just interesting to see a different change, a change in tack, to be more comfortable. In the press release, this Panigale V2, if you've got your press release deciphering translation head on, it instantly mentions road. It's designed for the road, it's not designed for the track, although they are keen to point out it's only 0.2 seconds slower round Vallelunga than the Panigale V2 was, the old Panigale V2. See, it's confusing me that they've got the same names. So I think lots of people will be up in arms about this, and obviously the Streetfighter V2 again used to be 150 horsepower, middleweight naked, and now it's going to be 120 horsepower. It's going to be, that bike was already kind of comfortable, so I don't really know what the difference is going to be here other than less weight and less power. So yeah, Ducati is claiming this new engine makes it the most fun to ride Panigale ever, and that might well be true. The V2 wasn't exactly a laugh a minute, it just had a great airbox honk and was very quick but still quite serious on the road, and the V4 obviously is very, very serious and track focused but apparently easier to ride than ever. So I think Ducati is realising that road riders don't want loads of power, and that kind of chimes with some of the comments that I got on that video about the death of motorcycling a couple of weeks ago. I would say from a quick look at the 1200 comments, the most common one was motorbikes have got too much technology or are too expensive because they've got too much technology. And the price of this new Panigale V2, it is, you know, ostensibly less bike than the old one in terms of the engine output. They are reducing the cost of it slightly. It starts from £15,000 for the base one, 17 I think for the S model with Erlins. 17 grand, that is what the V2 used to cost by the time it was killed off. So yeah, the top spec of the new one is the same as the old V2, which I don't think ever got an S model anyway, because it never got Erlins unless you were buying one of the special edition ones, Troy Bayliss or whatever it was. So yeah, it is a bit cheaper, but it's still bloody expensive for a 120 horsepower bike, I guess. But then Ducati's always been expensive, haven't they? And it has got the double-sided swing arm for more flexibility and more comfort in corners and grip and things like that. And it's still got a full suite of electronics and all the rest of it. It'd just be interesting to see if it sells. If people do actually put their money where their mouths are and buy the road-biased bike that they say they always wanted. I mean, I'm a big fan of road-biased bikes. The Supersport 950S was more compliant than a Panigale V2, had more instant shove, despite the fact that was also only about 120 horsepower. It's had a longer stroke engine, more instant torque and all the rest of it, and on the road that just made it work better. It was pretty awful on track, the Supersport. I couldn't get on with the seat, you couldn't move around enough, and I was decking it out even at my very average riding pace. Problems I didn't have on the Panigale V2. So yes, do you think Ducati's made a mistake chopping 35 horsepower out of one of their most iconically named bikes? I don't know. And we should talk about the price difference as well between it and the V4. The V4 is now, what, 28 grand, I think? Which is obviously a ton of money. So 10 grand more than the new V2S. I've just checked my notes from when I reviewed the last Panigale V2. This is so confusing, isn't it? The 150 horsepower Panigale V2. I reviewed that in 2021. That was only 15 grand back then, but it was only 4.5 grand less than a base Panigale V4. Now it's 10 grand less than a base Panigale V4. So the gulf between the V2 and the V4 is bigger than ever. So I really do think that they've just separated the model lineup. But that kind of makes me think they should have given the new Panigale V2 a different name. Maybe called it the Supersport or something. The slightly more hardcore, less orthopedic looking Supersport. Like the new one doesn't look like it's got heli bars or anything like bar risers, but it is definitely a little bit more happy shopper than the old one. Yes, you stay there. And yeah, like I said, I just don't think the Streetfighter needed to be softened off really for the road. It was a great road bike anyway. You had to go hunting for the revs to get the power, but yeah, it's just interesting times, and I just predict that lots of people will be up in arms about this, saying, oh my gosh, they shouldn't have cut 35 horsepower from it. I don't care, it's lighter, it hasn't got the headline figures, they shouldn't have called it Panigale. I don't know, I think it'll be a better road bike than the old Panigale V2 in short. I probably won't get to ride one until next summer, but I reckon it's going to be a better road bike than the old Pani V2, but we'll see. What do you think? Tell me in the comments. Right, anyway, I'm going to bugger off because I'm on the way to go and collect another motorbike to test, and this is very apt because everyone's complaining that motorbikes are getting too expensive, have too much technology. And I'm about to go and collect a GS Adventure which costs £23,000 and has all the technology in the world on it, so we'll see. But anyway, I'm doing the M25 now, so yeah, I'll see you in a couple of days time for my first ride of the GSA. It's not going to be the automatic one, just the manual GSA triple black. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more bike reviews and or whinges and critiques of motorcycling. and I shall see you at Motorcycle Live on the Monday. If you're there, come and say hello. Ciao, bye.